Thanks for joining us here at Toolin Around. Our guests today design and build some incredible furniture by breathing new life into really old wood. And they also sport some facial hair that is the envy of moonshiners and Civil War reenactors everywhere. It's the bearded brothers of Sons of Sawdust. Matt, Ben, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you here. Before we start our conversation about those epic beards, I really want to talk about Sons of Sawdust. How did it start? Where did it come from? How did it manifest?
Well, I built a table for my wife, a farm table, out of wood. And not too long after I built this farm table, it was on our back porch. Ben had injured his knee doing construction. And I remember he came over to my house, sitting on the back porch, and he didn't know what he was going to do. The doctor told him he couldn't work for a couple months. He had to let his knee repair. And I remember looking over at the farm table, and I was thinking, like, dude, you could probably build one of these every week. If you sold it for, just a couple $100s, it'd help you cover yourself until you got back on your feet, right?
Mm-hmm. So necessity really became the mother of invention of your business.
Yeah. I had been staying with Matt and Shayna, waiting on the house that I was getting ready to move into to get ready. And so we were all together that night when I had the realization I wasn't going to be able to work. And Matt just had the idea. He had this farm table that he just built from plans he downloaded from Anna White.
Another amazing upcycler.
Yeah. So he said, let's just build a table and put it on Craigslist and see if maybe somebody will buy it. And we did that, and the next day we had 3 people want to buy the table that he'd just built for Shayna.
And then basically it just downfall.
Well, that caused a problem, though.
There was a problem?
I built that for my wife.
So your wife wasn't too big on you taking it back.
I was like, okay, we got a problem here. Either I sell the table that I just built for you, or we do something. And Ben had the great idea of using reclaimed wood from his history in construction. Called an old friend who tore down old houses and was like, hey, we need some reclaimed wood. And literally the guy was taking down a house that day. Drove out, picked up a load of wood, built the first table out of reclaimed wood, and orders just kept rolling in.
So who taught you? Where did it come from?
Well, when we were kids, we spent every chance we could at our grandfather's workshop. And Pa was the coolest old man. He loved us so much, and he spent every second he could just pouring into our lives. And he really planted seeds in us, like the passion for woodworking and just the appreciation for handcrafted goods.
So literally you guys are the Sons of Sawdust.
Yeah, it's a part of our life.
That's amazing.
What's great is when we were kids, he actually taught us how to go out and deconstruct old buildings. We started a business with him building birdhouses out of reclaimed wood.
Wow.
And it was crazy just thinking, we had this conversation not too long ago, just seeing the full circle of some of these things he taught us when we were kids. And after all these years of doing all these other things, now we're right back where we started.
So speaking of old wood, what's the oldest wood that you guys have come across? A barn? What was it?
It was probably the schoolhouse in Bishop, right?
It was crazy. It was built in 1815 as a schoolhouse. And the family a family actually bought the schoolhouse, had it mule hauled from one town to another in the 1900s, early 1900s. They lived in the schoolhouse while they built their old home place. And then eventually they moved into the house that they lived in for the next 100 years, and this old schoolhouse just sat out there.
So is there ways for you guys to tell, are there telltale signs of growth or mill marks, or tell us about that?
Yeah, it's relatively easy to look at a piece of wood and figure out if it was, milled before the 30s or the 20s, because I think it was in the 20s when they switched from using those big circular saws to a bandsaw. So wood that's older than the 30s is going to have those circular saw marks. You can see them, little etchings, slightly curved, because this blade was probably 50 inches.
It gives it the character to the wood.
Yeah, and so that's a telltale sign.
I mean, do you look at growth rings on your boards?
So with pine, especially longleaf pine, which is a lot of what we come across, I think the sign is if you get 7 rings per inch, then it's considered antique heart pine. And that's kind of what we go for. So you can cut into it and you can tell how old
we've found, especially at the train depot we took down last year, we found a few pieces, I think there were over 160 rings per inch.
And this place was built in the 1870s. So
So who knows how long?
Yeah.
Who knows
Oh,
how?
hundreds
So
of
let me
years.
ask you a question. Do these people find you? Do you find them? Where did the Sons of Sawdust find their materials?
We started off just going on treasure hunts, getting in the truck and driving and seeing.
Just
if
looking
we could-
around?
Yeah. We'd
See an
go,
old barn, you go knock on the door and be like, hey. And there was this one time when I knocked on the door, and like all I could see, I saw a lady's feet run across and then peek behind the curtain. She saw me, and I think it was something to do with the beard. But she just like immediately, like I heard her run off. And I was still standing on the front porch. And I just stood there because I was like, maybe she'll come back. I mean, there's this barn I want back there. And she came back in a minute later, like tiptoed and peeked out again, and then ran off again. And I was like, dude, I gotta get out of here. She's gonna call
Well, better
the
than that,
cops on me.
or at least you didn't cock a shotgun.
Yeah, I mean that too. I imagine her calling her husband, the farmer, coming out with a shotgun after me.
So you decided not to knock on doors anymore. So what was the next step for Sons of Sawdust to try to find materials?
Well, as our Instagram account has grown, a lot of people just kind of know what we do, and we're fortunate now. A lot of people are calling us, and they're asking us if we'll come and save these old buildings, and it's really awesome because a lot of these buildings get torn down, thrown into the landfill, and they're lost forever. You can't go cut down a tree and find the quality of wood that we use. You have to find it in these old buildings.
Well, and what's really interesting to me is that you do this yourselves. I mean, the two of you get up there with whatever truck you have, and you pull it down, and then you're ripping it apart and you're denailing it. I mean, it's a process, isn't it?
It's a lot of work. But the cool thing about that is when we have our hands on every project, then it's just more meaningful to us, you know. Because it's a really special thing. This business saved our lives, you know. This opportunity, we were in desperate places, both of us, and we've been down a pretty hard road, you know. It's not been the easiest for us, and we've probably made it more difficult for ourselves. But this business is kind of like our chance to be redeemed. And the cool thing about that is that's kind of what we get to do with the wood. Because it's on its way to the landfill. It's lost. It had a purpose at one point, but now it's just sitting there. Maybe it's forgotten. And we get to find that wood and give it a new life, clean it up.
That's amazing.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing. I was going to make a note, but I don't actually have a pencil about that.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Let's see, I think I got something. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I mean, so my next question is this. I mean, funny enough you can really hide anything in there.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Speaking of which, there's
Can I have my pencil back?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me use it. How in the world do you guys get through your day without chopping those beards in half or staining it a mahogany or doing something to desecrate the love that you have on your face? I mean, this is not like this for me, by the way. I mean, this is 4 months. But that to me is what? That's 6-8 months growing right there?
Probably close to a year.
Close to a year?
You really want to protect it. That's why I always keep a little bandana around my neck.
Got it.
Especially
Well,
when you're drilling or chopping, anytime that beard could get caught in something.
Well, and honestly, for everybody at home, that is a serious note. I mean, you could injure yourself, or worse so, your beard.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect. So, but this way, when you're still looking in the mirror, you don't feel demasculated.
No.
Perfect, because you still see the
Yeah,
beard.
because this is what
Got it.
gives me strength.
Well, obviously, it's
kinda like the Samson
Well, I was
thing.
going to say it's somewhat similar to Samson. I mean, I think you gain the strength from what you have. Right.
Absolutely.
You guys have been awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please check them out at sonsofsawdust.com. We're now out of time. Thanks to Matt and Ben Hobbs, and thank you for joining us here at Toolin Around, a constructive conversation.